evening, Peggy Driscoll, Vice Chair of the Newtown Township Planning Commission. We met last Tuesday night. The only item on our agenda was the revised amendment to the joint municipal zoning ordinance to amend provisions of the Office Research District to add a new use in E25, a motor vehicle fueling center. John VanLuvannee made comments regarding the changes that he made to the revised ordinance addressing topics that were discussed earlier. Plans of the proposed Wawa were also reviewed. Discussion points were regarding changing front yard setbacks from the cartway to the right-of-way, removing the 24-hour use, and he let the request be made that the approval process for additional traffic and safety issues continue with the township's ordinance regarding LED lighting, and that signage should be handled through the approval process. There was a discussion if this lot could be reconfigured differently to comply with the current setback requirements. However, this would reduce the length of the two-way driveway and be closer to the Pico easement. Other exchanges were adding sidewalks, increasing the height of the berm to the rear of the property to provide the residents better buffering from sight and sound and architectural features. Upon further discussion, it was requested that specifics to lighting guidelines and fuel deliveries be added to the ordinance. The applicant would like the setbacks from the cartway, but the jointure will have to agree and consider here conditions for conditional use purposes. The commission recommended that the supervisors consider this ordinance not as written and move forward, and this was not a unanimous recommendation.
Any questions for Mr. Driscoll?
Yes, I have a couple. I don't really understand what you mean by the commission recommended that supervisors consider this ordinance not as written, but move forward.
Well,
Maybe, I don't mean to cut you.
yeah,
Maybe the solicitor could answer this question in regards to the ordinance and so on.
Yeah, I think what that means, and I think what the board should certainly consider, is that this is a use that has now been recognized by the courts. And it has to be provided for within the jointure, so that right now the ordinance doesn't have provisions for what do they call it, a motor vehicle fueling center or a gas station / convenience store combined use. And due to the prevalence of that, that is a legitimate business use. So I think the recommendation is that the township move forward with an ordinance to deal with that legality, but not necessarily this ordinance as written.
well, I think you have to understand that it was the applicant that crafted this ordinance. So of course, everything that they want is in there. And a lot of the items that they have in there do not coincide with our ordinances. I mean, we're talking about, signage, right of way, sign heights, amount of signs. There are so many issues to deal with there on the bypass. And what we recommended that they go back and redo, consider some of the recommendations that we made, not that, it's hard. They came in and they put out everything that they want, and pretty much everything they want. We do not have a use for this.
Well, that's why I think what we should step back and talk about is the use.
Correct.
And not necessarily whatever the company may be called, Wawa, Sheets, Royal Farm. What our township and the jointure has to create this usage, and doesn't necessarily mean that's the initial spot of this usage.
Correct.
But
Correct.
not to be in the situation that Plumstead Township is in, we just need to create this, and I believe that's what you're
Correct.
getting to, that we need to create it within the jointure, and then form our own ordinance
Yeah.
with the help of like Bucks County Planning.
Yeah, that's my recommendation. I mean, I would recommend that based on the most recent review by the Planning Commission, that the township reach out to the Bucks County Planning Commission and its partners in the jointure to determine whether there are any resources that can help us establish the use and provide for it, but provide for it in a way that is best suited for the residents of the whole jointure, but especially Newtown Township.
Well,
You know, also, this ordinance they crafted is only for Newtown, according to the applicant, only for Newtown Township, only for this particular location, which really is spot zoning.
Well, that's taken into consideration. There are no other places within the jointure that may fit this zoning. But if we craft it properly and find other locations within the jointure, then this is not the only spot.
Correct.
And again, I would just take out of our minds the name Wawa or whatever.
I didn't
Well,
say
we're-
Wawa.
No, just no. Everyone here is concerned about Wawa or whatever. But what we gotta create to protect the township and the jointure as a whole is we have to create this zoning district. And if we could find multiple places, if we find one place in Upper Makefield, another place in Wrightstown, that now we've fulfilled that zoning issue, and we don't have to worry about this being the only spot of where this particular place can go.
Right, and Upper Mayfield and Wrightstown have to agree to the use itself.
Absolutely.
yeah, what I was impressed with, I went to the hearing and heard what the lawyer said, and he virtually threatened to sue the township because we didn't have that use. That's how he started off his testimony, which was very intimidating, I thought.
Well, you know, his cover letter stated that they have, our signage is not in with what they want, and they would not be willing to comply. I mean, we just turned down an Eagle Scout
Essentially, he
project
said,
with LED lighting.
He said, and I quote, Wawa won't be dictated to, basically. And
Right.
we do business the way we want to do business, and
Well, that
that's
was,
it.
if I recall, that's what the attorney said, but the gentleman who actually works for Wawa has a different opinion, so.
He said he would discuss with Wawa on the signage.
Right, so I think what we have to do is create the zoning districts first, and then submit it to the Bucks County Planning, to the jointure, and as we all know, this is not a speedy process.
No.
Can I also say that the jointure had already considered an ordinance and had drafted an ordinance, maybe going back 1 or 2 years.
Well, they
It's already on their agenda.
well,
it had been.
we're gonna do it in coordination with them, and they may have drafted an ordinance that only allows it within Newtown Township. We don't want that. We wanna find other pieces of property within the jointure, and if all three of the townships have a vested interest, it's gonna be more solidified.
You know, Wawa wants to be where all the traffic is, and I think they're kind of zeroed in on this location. But I don't think it's, me personally, to the benefit of the townships
Well, speaking of traffic, you mentioned that there were additional traffic and safety issues were discussed.
we had a lot of public comment too about, the trucks, the 18-wheelers, they want to be open 24/7, they want the lighting 24/7.
Well, did you know that the Wawa developer had commissioned and submitted this traffic impact study?
No, I've never seen that.
This is a public, be able to view by the public, and I think the public should take a look at it.